Oh my God, y'all, she is back. Kamala Harris has resurrected out of the hole that she was in after that embarrassing loss against President Trump, when she had the full weight of the mainstream media, all of the publications, all of the newspapers, even foreign leaders, all lying for this woman. Now, she just recently wrote a book called 107 Days. And this book has stirred up all types of controversy because she has been dropping hidden jewels or secrets that weren't supposed to be out. And she's been blaming people. And the worst thing that she could have committed, being a left-wing radical extremist, I'm going to let you hear it in this video. It's going to blow your mind after the way Republicans have been browbeat over all of these. You're misogynistic, you're a this-and-this-stick, you're a this. Every single type of person there is out there, they'll say, if you're not in full alignment of everything that they want to say, do, have, and be, then you're a something-istic. Well, we've got the woman who was pushed on us to be the president of the United States, who was actually the vice president under the now we know dementia Joe Biden, where we have no idea who was running the country. Hunter was in on meetings. The head staffer was doing things. Jill Biden was heading cabinet meetings. It was an octopus effect of one of the worst administrations that we have ever had. So in this video, I want you to hear Kamala Harris on left-wing radical extremist Rachel Maddow's show be asked about her unique views on a certain gender of person in this country and why she was prejudiced against that, which is going to make the entire left-wing platform crumble because this was their front runner. And then after that, wait till you hear what Governor Shapiro, another left-wing extremist of the party, the governor of Pennsylvania, wait till you hear what he has to say. And then I'm going to end it all the coup de grace, what Jill Biden had to say. So let me get into it. Check out this clip of Rachel Maddow and Kamala Harris. Check this out.
That you say in the book really bluntly that your personal first choice for your running mate would have been Pete Buttigieg, and you praise him effusively. You say he would have been an ideal partner if I were a straight man. And you say effectively that demographically it was too much to ask of the American people to ask them to elect you with him as your running mate. I wonder if his reaction to that, since this part of the book has come out, if you've had any reflection on that, or I guess I'd ask you to just elaborate on that a little bit. It's hard to hear. With you running as, you're the first woman elected vice president, you're a black woman and a South Asian woman elected to that high office, very nearly elected president, to say that he couldn't be on the ticket effectively because he was gay. It's hard to hear.
No, that's not what
Let me, before she gets into that, because here it comes. Now you just heard Rachel Maddow explain Kamala Harris's views. This is still her bigoted view of America. Let's just make that plain before she gets into whatever lies she's about to spew. That's a bigoted view, where the Democrats love to hang it on gender and all of these ideological things, when in reality it's about, are you competent? Are you about the country? And will you help? Can you get things done? Not all this gender politics crap that has been sinking their party, but I'll digress.
I said that he couldn't be on the ticket because he is gay. My point, as I write in the book, is that I was clear that in 107 days, in one of the most hotly contested elections for president of the United States, against someone like Donald Trump, who knows no floor, to be a black woman running for president of the United States and as a vice presidential running mate.
She's not black, as we all know. She's still running with this BS narrative. She is Irish and Indian. She has not 1 ounce of black blood in her body, but yet she's still trying to sell this lie to the American people. Sick of it.
A gay man, with the stakes being so high, it made me very sad, but I also realized it would be a real risk. No matter how, I've been an advocate and an ally of the LGBT community my entire life. So it wasn't about any prejudice on my part, but we had such a short period of time. And the stakes were so high. I think Pete is a phenomenal public servant. And I think America is and would be ready for that. But when I had to make that decision with 2 weeks to go, and maybe I was being too cautious, I'll let our friends, we should all talk about that. Maybe I was. But that's the decision I made. And I, as with everything else in the book, I'm being very candid about that.
Yeah.
With a great deal of sadness about also the fact that it might have been a risk.
Will you consider running in 2028?
That's not my focus right now.
Bold-faced lies. So as you just heard this woman say, oh, I didn't think it was a good thing. So she went and chose Tampon Tim Walz, who was putting tampon machines in boys' bathrooms, legalizing child body mutilation. This, who is the softest male. No man waves like this. Men don't wave like this. And if you have a man that's waving like that, you better start looking at him, because there's something else going on there. Because men don't say, hey guys. No, that's not how we do. He did more damage to the ticket. Pete Buttigieg being gay, and he still would have been ineffective, because look at what he did with the Department of Transportation. He was a mayor with no transportation experience who ran the Department of Transportation. Horrible. And then you put Tampon Tim. This woman was the VP. They tried to sell us on this woman that she was the greatest thing since sliced bread. And as you heard, she did a whole bunch of word salad there in a roundabout way to say America is prejudiced. Period. And what does it say about her decision making? She chose Tampon Tim. She didn't choose Shapiro because he was Jewish. And we're going to hear from him. She didn't choose Buttigieg because he was gay. So the party of identity politics was prejudiced against the own groups that they supposedly represent. If you're enjoying this video, do me a solid. Hit that thumbs up. I'll never ask you for a cash app or a super chat, but you hitting that like button, it does help push the video out there. And if you are subscribed to the channel, subscribe. And whether you're already subscribed or subscribing now, make sure that when you hit the notification bell that you select all. YouTube is struggling with getting notifications out, but when you hit all, YouTube will make sure you get notified when I upload new videos. And I have never heard a Republican, and I may be wrong, I've never heard President Trump or any Republican make a decision based off gender or based off race. Now, if the best qualified just so happen to be white, so be it. If the best qualified just happen to be black or a woman or Hispanic, so be it. But as you see, the Republican Party's got a Ted Cruz, a Tim Scott, a Donald Trump. So we can't say there's not diversity, but forget about all the diversity. Like I've heard before, if your family member, your loved one is going to get heart surgery, no black person is walking in there saying, is the surgeon black? I hope so. Nobody's saying that. If you're getting on a flight, you don't get on the flight saying, ooh, I hope my pilot's a woman or a person of color or a white guy. No, you say, I hope we got the best pilot. You don't care what color they are as long as they're skilled. Now, let's dig off into polls were recently released about Kamala Harris. Now, before I get into that poll, you just heard that word salad, but let's just make sure we remember this is who we talking about, and check out this next poll. Look at this crap right here. And remember, this is what she said prior to what we're experiencing, the great effects we're experiencing now. And she was almost our president.
I don't think he pays attention to the details, and you can't be president of the United States
unless you pay attention to the details.
Yeah, that's fine if he wants to, just give speeches in random places for random reasons. But to talk about such significant policy like tariffs, much less foreign policy, he is applying a machete when a scalpel is what's necessary.
It makes no sense to me whatsoever. To me, I think Donald Trump is the Grinch that stole Christmas. This time next year, we're going to be thinking about Christmas presents for all of our kids. And if he puts a 60% tariff on everything from China, those prices are going up. And now all of a sudden, your vision of everything you wanted to have for your kids at Christmas is gone. Donald Trump just crushed it.
Guess what? They were both wrong. We're having record-breaking times. The economy is doing better than it ever did when her and Dementia Joe was at the helm. But this is who we talking about. This is the woman who they tried to put as the president. Can you imagine where we would be? And don't think she's not coming back in 2028, because she is. That's why she's making these rounds. They wouldn't have her on TV unless they wanted her on TV. Facts of the matter. Okay, now let's check out these CNN polls, which have polled Democrats about Kamala Harris since she's just come back out from under her rock and is making her rounds. Check this out.
The revealing book about what happened after Biden's disastrous debate that ended his bid for president and started hers. Her new book, 107 Days, is out today. She talks about being hurt and disappointed by Biden. This morning, she sat for a new interview.
Part of the reason that I have written this book is for us to remember that there is somebody in the White House right now that made a whole lot of promises that were either about what would aggrandize and help him met out his vengeance, or about lies he told to the American people that he obviously never intended to keep.
All right, joining us now to discuss, or at least look at the numbers, because he is our chief data
guy,
correspondent,
analyst,
reporter,
whatever you want, Sarah.
Analyst, however I want to call you, or friend.
There we go.
Maybe,
I like that, chief
maybe
friend.
Today, we'll see. Harrington here. So how are our voters viewing Harris these days? And to be clear, this book has just come out. She's done an interview on NBC with Matt Al. She did an interview on Good Morning America. We're going to hear from her here today as well. What are people thinking about her as it starts coming?
Yeah, I would just say that if you want a messenger to go against Donald Trump, you can do far better as Democrats than Kamala Harris. What are we talking about here?
I want to give a big shout out to the sponsor of this video, Chapter. And here's why. When my mom hit 65 years old, I watched her get bombarded with mailers, cold calls, and all these confusing ads about Medicare. And every single company pretended like they wanted to help her, but really they were just trying to sell her stuff. It seemed like the game was rigged and she was not supposed to win at all. And that's why I'm so excited to share information about Chapter with all of you. Now, who Chapter is? Chapter is a free Medicare advisory service that compares Medicare plans available, and they give you real, unbiased guidance. Chapter is completely independent and always puts customers first. As a matter of fact, at Chapter, the agents are salaried employees, so you don't have any fear or concerns of them trying to work to get commission of some kind. Their whole focus is all about making sure that their customers, the seniors, get the right Medicare supplement plan. And it's clear that they're making a real difference in the lives of seniors. So if you want real, unbiased help with Medicare, give Chapter a call at 402-527-1253. You'll talk to a real person who will help you figure out exactly which plan is right for you. Now, Chapter is totally free and has saved the average senior $1,000 a year. So I'm going to put the number here on the screen for you to be able to contact, or if you visit the website, go to askchapter.org/real politics.
Well, let's take a look at her net favorable ratings nationwide. You know, back in October of 2024, she was at -5 points. Not exactly great, but pretty close to the 0 mark, right? Pretty close to even. But now, down under she goes. She's at -13 points. That's an 8-point drop since the general election among the overall electorate. She is not well liked at this particular point. The American people, they don't want this. They don't want her. And get this, she's 37 points underwater with independents. If you can't win independents, you can't win the election. And the bottom line is, with those in the center electorate, those who are the most up for grabs, she is way underwater. She is definitely swimming with the fishes.
So that's overarching, right? Looking at the whole country. What about Democrats in particular? Where does she stand with Democrats?
Yeah, okay. So what about the political base that is Democrats? Well, why don't we talk here? All right. Top choices for 2028 Democratic nominee. Now, it's still really early, but I think this really tells you that over the last few months, Democrats have really sort of put Kamala Harris on the back burner. What are we talking about? So back in April, she was 28% of Democrats said that she was their top choice for the 2028 nominee. Look at where she's dropped. She dropped by nearly 10 points since April, only 19% now. She was 20 points ahead of Gavin Newsom back in April, and now the two of them are dead heat. In fact, she's actually 2 points behind Gavin Newsom, though that's within the margin of error. But when you go from 20 points ahead of Gavin Newsom to 2 points behind, it's clear that Gavin Newsom is doing something the Democratic Party and the Democratic voters want, and Kamala Harris ain't doing that.
And this also, when you look at that number, like gives a lot of space to a lot of other people that might want to jump into the race. Let's talk about her home state, which is obviously a state that is a Democratic state. How are they feeling about Kamala Harris?
Yeah, okay, so voters nationwide ain't liking what they're seeing from Kamala Harris. Democrats are far more open to other options for 2028. But how about in the home state? Well, it pretty much says the exact same story. Californians on Harris's runs for president. Back in 2024, she got 58% of that vote. Now, only 42% of Californians are excited for another run for Kamala Harris for president. So no matter where you look, whether you look nationally among voters overall, nationally with Democrats, or within her home state, Kamala Harris's political standing has fallen. Now, obviously, we'll see whether or not this book has any big changes. But at this particular point, Kamala Harris's political career, time seems to be running out on.
Yeah, I mean, she's been pretty quiet, and now.
So as you heard, in her home state, you got 42% of some deranged people that are excited. And I don't believe that number. I actually think it's way lower than that. Or you got to look at how they asked the question. But as you can see, even her base is no longer supporting her. Now, I want to listen to Governor Shapiro, the man that she passed over because allegedly he was Jewish. He went on the Stephen A. Smith show and check out what he had to say. And he had been a supporter of Kamala Harris until she snaked him in her book, saying that she felt like he was too power hungry. Check out his response.
Stakes were simply too high. This wasn't a choice that should have been left to an individual's ego, an individual's ambition. It should have been more than a personal decision. We hear something like that. The question some folks will want me to ask you is she right? My question would be, why didn't you say that before?
Right.
That's what I would be thinking.
Right.
That's the question that comes to my mind as a voter. How should we feel when we hear something that we suspected but wasn't acknowledged by politicians who were looking for our support? And then we find out later we were right and they should have spoken up and they should have shown more courage. What do you say to that?
I mean, look, I haven't read the former vice president's book, and she's going to have to answer to how she was in the room and yet never said anything publicly. I can tell you that I wasn't in the room, but when I was confronted with engagement with the former president, in looking at it simply from the perspective of how's he doing in Pennsylvania? Could he win Pennsylvania? Because I think, Stephen, you understand, if you can't win Pennsylvania, it's pretty darn hard to win the national election. And I was very vocal with him privately and extremely vocal with his staff about my concerns about his fitness to be able to run for another term. I was direct with them. I told them my concerns.
So as you see, Shapiro, she's going to have to answer for her being in the room and not saying anything. And there's more things that he said. But here's the coup de grace. The coup de grace is the fact that Jill Biden and Joe Biden feel betrayed by Kamala. Check out Jesse Waters. He reports on it.
Kamala's selling out her friends to sell her new book. And there's no coming back from this. Kamala's going after the first lady, Jill Biden. Remember when Jill kissed Doug at the State of the Union?
Now, I got to stop it there. I remember that. Tell me that that's not the weirdest thing in the world. If you're in a relationship with somebody, what would you do if when you went and greeted your coworker, if your significant other, is greeting their coworker and you saw them kiss the spouse of the two spouses of the coworkers kissing? So if you're with your spouse, somebody else is with theirs, the two people working together are greeting and the two spouses are kissing on the mouth. That happened. That is weird. That is strange. There's something more going on there. That is nuts. I remember that at the State of the Union too.
Well, the doctor pulled Doug aside on the 4th. Doug thought he was getting another kiss. Instead, he got threatened. Jill Biden said, "Are you supporting us?" Doug responded, of course, we're supporting you. Okay, that's really important. We need to know that. Doug got angry, and you won't like him very much when he's angry. He complained to his wife, quote, "They hide you away for 4 years, give you impossible bleep jobs, don't correct the record when those tasks are mischaracterized, and still they have to ask if we're loyal." Kamala regrets not throwing Biden under her electric bus earlier. She said this moment was like pulling the pin on a hand grenade. Watch.
Would you have done something differently than President Biden during the past 4 years?
There is not a thing that comes to mind in terms of, and I've been a part of most of the decisions that have had impact.
Kamala tried being graceful, and it killed her campaign. Biden, he was bitter. He threatened Kamala on the night of her debate. And then the day after, put on a Trump hat. Kamala says MAGA Joe's ego really hurt her. She needed somebody in her corner, but her VP was a huge disappointment. Kamala watched Tampon nod along with Vance at the VP debate and was yelling at her TV screen, "You're not here to make friends with the guy who's attacking your running mate." We know Tampon wasn't her first pick. She wanted Mayor Pete, but thought he was too gay. Pete read the book, and he's not happy with monologue.
I was surprised when I read that. I just believe in giving Americans more credit than that. My experience in politics has been that the way that you earn trust with voters is based mostly on what they think you're going to do for their lives, not on categories.
Kamala had her eye on Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro, too, but thought he'd steal the spotlight from her and thought he was too cocky. Shapiro kept asking his aides about how he should redecorate the VP's residence. He's not happy with Harris either. Shapiro says Kamala was part of the cover-up.
Look, I haven't read the former vice president's book, and she's going to have to answer to how she was in the room and yet never said anything publicly.
Kamala tried calling Newsom too, but he sent her a voicemail. Quote, "Hiking. We'll call back," wrote the former vice president in her notes from her calls that day. Never called her back. Newsom's smart enough not to jump on a sinking ship. Waltz, the perfect sucker for the job. At least he got cupcakes for election night that had to be redecorated as the results rolled in. Quote, Harris's social secretary peeled icing that read "Madam President" off the cupcakes that had been ordered for the occasion and sent them out to the campaign staffers along with wine. Trump called Kamala after she conceded. Turns out the dictator wasn't so mean. Quote, "I'm going to be so nice and respectful. You are a tough, smart customer. And I say that with great respect. And you also have a beautiful name. I got use out of that name. It's Kamala." Democrats are in deep. Their last nominees on a book tour trashing the party, and the bench is full of commies and crazies. Right now, the betting markets have Hunter ahead of Crooked, Beto, and Bernie. He's the only Democrat that can blow through $2 billion quicker than Kamala.
Oh, my goodness. I love it. So there you have it. There is Democrat civil war. Kamala Harris has dropped a nuclear bomb in the party, exposing homophobia, exposing anti-Semitism, exposing her radical left-wing extremism is no longer even respected amongst the left-wing radical extreme. And again, y'all, what's crazy is that they tried to push this woman off on us just a few months ago, not even a year yet. They tried to push her off and sell her to us like she was the greatest thing since sliced bread, even though in 2023, they tried to get her removed off the ticket. Do y'all remember that? They wanted her gone. Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer would refuse to even support her publicly. And even when Biden dropped out, Obama didn't cast his support for her for at least a week or 10 days until he kept trying to get them to do an election until they realized, oh my God, that $200 million in campaign funds, we can't pass that off to somebody else. It'll have to go back. The only person that was eligible to utilize that money was Kamala Harris. And that's the only reason they threw her in there. That's it. And let me show you how fake the support was. You had left-wing women and black women going crazy. Oh, Kamala. Where's all that support now? She's a negative 13, from a 5 to a 13. So that support was fake and it was manufactured. And I'm happy that she blew out. She blew $2.5 billion in 100 days. Imagine what she would have did with the nation's deficits in 4 years. We saw what the Biden administration was capable of. And she's even more radical than Joe. So good riddance to bad rubbish. I wanted y'all to see that these Democrats are being exposed all over the place. And it's a great day in America. So if you've hung out and you've watched this with me, thank you from the top and bottom of my heart. If you haven't already, hit that like button. If you aren't subscribed, subscribe. Most importantly, I want you to stay safe and you be great. I'm Brian Maxwell saying I look forward to seeing you at the top. Over and out, y'all.